Welcome back to my channel, The Soft Life Project. I thought I'd do a little GLP-1 update today for you. I feel like I've reached a turning point in my Mounjaro journey. And I think the theme of this update today is I may have been underdosed for a lot longer than I realised. The energy is kind of a little bit funny, a little bit facepalm, a little bit frustrating. But let's get into it. First of all, just a disclaimer, as I always say, I'm not a medical professional. This is not medical advice. I'm simply sharing my opinions and my experiences with this medication. If you have any questions at all in relation to your health journey on a GLP-1, please speak to your subscriber or health provider. So if you've been following my journey on Mounjaro, you know that I've been on the medication for about 6 or 7 months now. I started off very cautiously and I started low and slow because I did have some side effects earlier on, and this was absolutely the right decision for me at the time. I didn't jump straight up through the doses, and I'm really glad that I did that. I don't regret protecting my nervous system and my digestion, my energy, my ability to work, function, train, and just live my life. I never wanted this to be something that flattened me or made me feel unwell all of the time. But now I'm realizing that there is a difference between being sensible with this medication and staying too low for too long. And I think that's what's happened in this case. For a while, I was getting some benefits. The food noise was quieter. I wasn't thinking about snacks or treats all the time or what I could eat next. And that mental relief was amazing. But here's the thing. I don't think I fully understood that you can have low food noise but still be on a dose that's too low to work metabolically for weight loss. Who knew? I think I assumed that because the food noise was quieter, the medication was doing enough to shift the weight. And maybe it was doing something, but it definitely wasn't doing enough to help shift the weight properly. And that feels like such an important distinction for me. The food noise and appetite regulation can be improved, but the metabolic effect, the bit that really helps move the needle, was not at a high enough therapeutic dose for my body. And I think that's where I got a bit stuck, because the actual weight loss has been very modest. I've lost around 4 kilos, and don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing that at all. 4 kilos is 4 kilos. And I have lost measurements as well, but not a lot. That also has been very modest. So for 6 or 7 months on a GLP-1 medication, that really isn't where I should be. I should be a bit further along than I am. Considering that I'm training regularly, I'm getting my steps in every day, I'm very mindful of my food, I get my protein in, doing all the right things, and I just clearly don't seem to be at a therapeutic dose for my body. And I think I knew that deep down, but I was also trying to be patient, and it's a tricky balance. You don't want to rush just because you're impatient. You don't want to be careless about it, but you also don't want to be sitting at a dose that isn't working for you. I had this long stretch where I was bouncing around the same couple of kilos. Sometimes I'd dip down and then it would go straight back up again, and there was no meaningful loss. And I started to feel like I was back in the same situation I was before I started Mounjaro. And that messes with your head. It really does. It was frustrating because that was exactly why I went on Mounjaro, to help me get out of that pattern that I used to be in, putting in all the effort with steps and training and food and all the things. And it just wasn't wasn't working. And it wasn't because I expected Mounjaro to be magic. I just expected it to work with all of the effort I was putting in so that I would actually start to see a downward trend in my weight. And after that long period of time, it just didn't. I kept thinking, okay, maybe I'm in a plateau. I just need to wait. Maybe the next week or the next month, the scale will show a downward trend. But that didn't happen. So sometimes the answer is just the answer, that I was on a dose that was too low for my body. And to be honest, I did feel angry. I felt angry at myself for not noticing it earlier. I felt frustrated with my prescriber, and this wasn't in a dramatic, over-the-top, angry kind of way, but I was hard on myself for not noticing it as an obvious piece of the puzzle that was missing. Because when you're paying for the medication out of pocket, Mounjaro is not on the PBS in Australia. It is not covered by a lot of private health, certainly not my private health. So I'm paying for it out of pocket. It's expensive. I'm managing side effects, doing the injections every week, doing all the things, the training, the food, the steps, as I've mentioned. And for it not to do what you want it to do or what it should be doing, it's frustrating. That's a human response to the situation that I found myself in. And yes, I know I'm responsible for my own choices. I chose to be cautious and go low and slow, but it's still true that I was annoyed at myself. Both things can be true. It's okay to feel annoyed that I spent a long time at doses that were too low for me and weren't really getting me to where I wanted to go. I've moved on from that now because staying angry doesn't help me. And I just wanted to be real though, because as I've said from the start, I do want to show the good and the bad on this journey. And I definitely was not calm and zen through this whole journey. And that was probably the biggest challenge that I have faced on this journey so far. And the other hard thing, and I think this is also very human, is seeing other people having amazing results on GLP-1 medications. And I know that we shouldn't compare ourselves. We don't know other people's starting weights, what dose they're on, the whole context around their journey. So comparing ourselves to somebody else isn't fair, and I know that, but it's something that sticks in your mind when things aren't moving and you see other people having great success. It makes you even more frustrated. I make an effort not to go on social media and read Reddit forums, for example, about other people's amazing weight loss. They've lost 10 kilos in a week. I do try and stay away from that because my journey is my journey and it's unique to me. And comparing myself to others is not helpful. It doesn't help me on my journey. I mean, I'm over here losing 4 kilos in 6 or 7 months, and you do start to think, am I doing something wrong? Is this medication not working for me? Is it never going to work for me? So I increased my dose to 3.8 milligrams last week. I'll be taking my second dose of that later on today, and I'm tolerating it really well. And I'm hoping that this is the start of a more intentional plan going forward to get to a dose that actually starts working better for my body. The plan from here is pretty simple. I'm going to sit at this dose for 4 weeks because that is the amount of time it takes for a dose to build up into your system and reach steady state. I'm going to monitor how I tolerate it, monitor my side effects, and monitor the trend of my weight loss in that 4-week period. So I'm going to be looking at the 30-day trend going forward on a particular dose. If I'm feeling good and I have lost minimum of 1 kilo in that 30 days or more, then I will hold that dose for a bit longer. If, however, over that 30-day period, I have lost less than 1 kilo and my side effects are manageable, I'm feeling okay, I will increase my dose after that 30 days, after that 4 weeks. So the next jump up for me will be 5 milligrams, which for many people is a therapeutic dose. And I just want to be clear again, this is a plan for my body and it's with my prescriber's support. Don't take this as something that you should be doing. Again, always speak to your prescriber about your individual needs. Alongside the dose increase, I'm still going to be doing all the standard things that I have been doing. So training, moving, eating well, doing all the things I should be doing and enjoy doing to make sure that I am getting the best result from the medication. So it's not about punishing my body into progress. That's definitely not the vibe. The vibe is to support my body and support the medication to do its job and stop expecting a tiny dose to do the job of a proper dose. And some people have great success on those tiny doses, and that's amazing. But for my body, it needs more. It needs to be at a higher dose before it gets the memo that it needs to drop the weight. The next thing I'm trying to remember is that this hasn't been wasted time. And that was one of the main things that I really had to get my head around and stop feeling frustrated about. The decisions I made when I first started on this medication 6 or 7 months ago were right for me at the time. And it has given my body a really good amount of time to tolerate the medication. It's allowed me to learn how my body responds, how to manage any side effects that crop up. It's helped me get back into a really good routine of exercise and eating well and hitting my protein. And those things I don't take for granted. I think that they have been really helpful, and that's what I'm trying to hold on to. So this next phase feels a lot more informed. It's not just let's see what happens, which is what I was doing before. It's more about, okay, I have a plan now. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons on this whole journey. It's not always linear. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes you realize 6 months in that you've been underdosed. And you just have to laugh, facepalm, and move on. So that's where I'm at. I'm still learning, still figuring it out as I go, but I feel more confident now that I have a clearer plan to get things moving again. I'll keep you updated on how this dose goes and whether the trend starts shifting again and whether I end up increasing my dose once more. And if you're on a similar journey, and especially if you've gone low and slow like me, I'd love to know whether you've experienced something similar. Perhaps where you realised you were tolerating the medication, but not at a high enough dose for it to be working therapeutically. So this has been a very real, very imperfect, sometimes very frustrating midlife GLP-1 journey. And again, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I will see you in the next one.